You see, the thing is, people only value what disappears. They don't care how much of your soul you poured into keeping them warm. They won't thank you for showing up every damn time they needed someone. They won't clap when you sacrifice your peace to protect their chaos. Nah. They'll just expect it. And then one day, you stop showing up. And that's when the panic sets in. That's when the silence starts screaming louder than your presence ever did. But by then, it's too damn late. You gave them light and they played in the shadows. You gave them your time, your thoughts, your heart, and they still asked what else you had left. That's the truth, isn't it? This world, these people, they don't respect consistent presence. Because respect, my friend, comes after loss. Not love, not loyalty, not words. Loss. Take away what you kept giving, and suddenly you're not so invisible anymore. You want power? Disappear. That's right. Be silent. Be cold. Walk out without a warning. Let them choke on the space you used to fill, because the more noise you make, the less they hear. They only start to listen when there's nothing left to say. That's when they notice the void, the silence that used to be laughter, the absence that used to be you fixing their damn mess every time they broke something. They only realize the value of presence after absence turns them hollow. And I'm not telling you this to make you bitter. I'm telling you this to wake you the hell up. You've been handing out access to a soul they didn't deserve, letting people take bites out of your worth, and you're still starving for their approval? Come on. What kind of joke is that? People only respect distance. It's sick, but that's how they're wired. You walk away, and suddenly your worth grows. Not because you changed, but because they never saw it to begin with. Let that sink in. They didn't see you. They saw what you did for them. They saw the benefits, the convenience, the comfort, but not you. Never you. You were just a name they called when they needed something. And the worst part? You let it happen. You answered every call. You forgave without hesitation. You stayed even when you were breaking. All for what? So they could ignore you in the daylight and miss you at midnight? Number, it's time to shift, to vanish. Let the silence speak your revenge. Let absence tear through their peace like a damn storm. You ain't cold for walking away. You ain't evil for being done. You're just finally understanding that presence is a currency, and you've been giving it away for free. You've been letting people overdraft on your loyalty with no consequences. You've been showing up with a bleeding heart while they sat there with empty hands, clapping for themselves. But no more. You want them to respect your presence? Good. Then make them earn it. Make them sit with the silence. Let them see how heavy it gets when you're not the one carrying the weight anymore. Let them drown in the quiet they once begged you to fill. And when they come crawling back, whispering that they didn't know what they had, don't smile, don't shout, just nod. Because now they understand. You were never loud. You were just always there. And that was your mistake. They'll pretend like they didn't notice your silence at first. They'll laugh louder, speak softer, maybe even post a little more, trying to fill the gap you left with their own noise. But silence isn't something you replace. It's not something you mask. It's a shadow that haunts them in the middle of their distractions. Because eventually, that absence becomes undeniable. That silence, it gets under their skin. It echoes. You were their comfort, their fallback, their guarantee. They had you on standby like you were some damn fire extinguisher. Break only in case of emotional emergency. And now, you're gone. And they're left with the mess they never wanted to clean on their own. That's the consequence they never thought would come. Because you trained them. Yeah, let that hit. You trained them to believe you'd never leave. You taught them that no matter how they acted, you'd still be around. You turned your loyalty into a prison. And now you break out. Stop being a damn volunteer in people's lives. They got used to you being the one who always reaches out first, who forgives first, who cares first. And guess what? That made them think they were better than you. More important, more wanted, more powerful. Because when you chase, they run. When you stay, they leave. When you speak, they go silent. And when you love too loud, they turn down the volume and act deaf. But now the tables have turned. And not with rage, not with revenge, with absence, cold, silent, surgical. You don't need to scream to make a point. You don't need to explain your worth. You don't need closure. You need to vanish, quietly, firmly, and permanently. That's how you flip the game. They'll check their phone more often now, hoping, waiting, wondering. Why haven't you texted? Why didn't you call? Did something happen? Yeah, something did happen. You woke up. You finally looked in the mirror and realized you're not some sidekick in their story. You're not some background character in their drama. You're the one who gave light, and they took it like it was owed to them. But light isn't owed. Attention isn't owed. Love, sure as hell, isn't owed. It's earned. And now, the meter's off. The supply is gone. And the demand? Oh, it's about to skyrocket. Because nothing breaks a narcissist like losing control of the one they thought they had wrapped around their finger. And nothing builds you stronger than walking away without burning the bridge. Just removing yourself from it completely. And don't you dare go back when they miss you. That's their punishment. Let them miss you. Let them sit with the taste of your silence. That's how people learn. Not through arguments, not through second chances, but through emptiness. Let them see what life feels like without your love, your time, your energy. They won't find another you. They'll search in faces, in voices, in late-night texts, but it won't be the same. Because you weren't just a person. You were a presence, a feeling, a home. And they abandoned that. They disrespected that. And now the doors are shut. Let them knock, let them beg, but never open it again, because respect that comes too late is just manipulation wrapped in regret. And you're done being manipulated. You're done being taken for granted. You know what's funny? They'll say you changed, that you became distant, cold, different. But the truth is, you just stopped dancing to their silence. You stopped shrinking yourself to fit into their shallow expectations. You stopped handing out explanations to people who never deserved your reasons in the first place. They'll act confused, shocked even, as if your absence came out of nowhere, like they didn't see it coming, like they weren't the ones who ignored your presence, mocked your softness, mistook your patience for weakness, but deep down, they knew. Oh, they knew. They just thought you'd never have the strength to walk. They bet on your loyalty, not your self-respect. And now you've flipped the whole damn script. You're not the one begging for attention anymore. You're not the one proving your worth. You became what they feared the most, unavailable. See, when you were there for them, every single time, they called it normal. When you listened, understood, forgave, they called it your nature. But now that you're gone, they call it betrayal. Let me ask you this. Where was their loyalty when you needed it? Where were the long messages when you were breaking down? Where was the care when you were hurting in silence? Exactly. Nowhere. Because you were never a priority, just an option, a convenience. And the second you flipped that role and became distant, you shattered the illusion. Now they have to sit with themselves and realize they didn't lose someone ordinary. They lost the one person who showed up when nobody else did. The one person who meant every word, every effort, every damn sacrifice. But here's the beautiful part. You don't owe them anything. Not a text, not an update, not closure. You don't owe them your return just because they finally realized your worth. Growth means understanding that not everyone deserves access to you, especially not those who couldn't even recognize you when you were standing right in front of them, bleeding for their comfort. Let that sink in. You were there while they were lost, confused, tired, and they walked away like you were just temporary. They'll say they didn't mean to hurt you, but silence is a choice. Ignoring someone is a decision. And so is forgetting who was always there. You didn't leave because you were weak. You left because you were finally strong enough to realize your presence had become a gift too often wasted. Let your absence be the storm. Let it crash into their nights. Let it fill the space where your laughter used to live, where your words used to soothe. Because the most powerful thing you can do to someone who took you for granted is nothing. No arguments. No, I told you so. Just silence, just space, just you leveling up while they crumble in confusion. And the more they try to understand what happened, the more they'll realize it wasn't sudden. It was slow. It was every time they brushed you off. Every time they made you feel like too much. Every time they took and never gave a damn thing back. And now, they get to sit in that realization, that haunting truth, that you were the rarest thing they ever had, and they lost it piece by careless piece. And don't let that guilt creep in. You know the one. That quiet voice in the back of your mind whispering, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should have stayed. Maybe they didn't mean it. Kill that voice. Starve it. Because that guilt isn't yours. It's a byproduct of how deeply you loved the wrong people. You didn't abandon anyone. You didn't become a monster. You simply enforced a boundary they thought they'd never have to respect. You see, they were comfortable with the version of you that tolerated their bullshit. The version that swallowed pain, smiled through disrespect, and kept coming back like a loyal dog. But the moment you got tired of bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a damn bandage, suddenly you became the villain in their story. Let them think that. Let them build a narrative to protect their ego. Because at the end of the day, you don't owe the world your softness when all it's done is harden you. They'll reach out when they feel that silence wrap around them like a noose. It won't be out of love. It'll be out of discomfort, out of guilt, out of a need to fill the gap you left behind. They'll come back acting like they care now. Don't fall for it. Because people don't change their nature that fast. They change their behavior when they sense they've lost control. They'll test you. Little texts, old pictures, a call that lingers just long enough to stir confusion. That's how they try to crawl back into your mind, but this time, don't pick up. Don't bite. Don't reopen the door you had to chain shut to save your own soul. The respect they're offering now is cheap. It's guilt-wrapped manipulation. It's not love. Love is what you gave. Respect is what you never got back. And now, they feel the void of it. Good. Let them sit in that. Because absence, true absence, is a mirror. It forces people to look at themselves without the comfort of your validation. They don't just miss you. They miss who they were when they had you. You made them feel important. You made them feel seen. You made them feel safe. And now that you're gone, they don't know who the hell they are anymore. That's not your responsibility. That's the cost of their carelessness. Let them rebuild themselves without the blueprint you once were. Let them learn the hard way that love isn't guaranteed and loyalty isn't infinite. You were the shelter in their storm. You were the hand in the dark. And they treated you like you were replaceable. Let them discover just how rare your kind is. Let them choke on the silence of your absence until they beg to hear the sound of your footsteps again. And when that day comes, keep walking. Because healing ain't about returning. It's about rising. It's about learning how to be whole without the people who broke you. It's about taking your power back and realizing that your value was never in how much you stayed, but in what happens when you leave. The ripple you cause, the silence that haunts, the space you once filled that now feels like a damn graveyard. That's your power. Your presence was a storm, and your absence. It's the calm after, but not the peaceful kind. The kind that makes people uncomfortable, that makes them realize they were the storm all along, and you were the one trying to hold everything together. But now, let it all fall apart. That's not your war anymore. They'll lie to themselves first. Tell themselves it wasn't their fault, that you were just too emotional, too sensitive, too much. They'll rewrite the history in their head to paint themselves as innocent, because that's what cowards do. They don't take accountability. They create illusions. They'll say you switched up. But no, you didn't switch up. You woke up. You woke up to the fact that love without respect is just slow destruction. You realize that being available all the time only made them believe they could treat you like an option. They wanted you there, sure, but on their terms, on their time, when it was convenient. You were their cushion, their backup, their silent support system that never demanded to be seen until you did. And that's when they flinched. That's when they backed away. Because the moment you ask for what you give, the fake ones scatter. Like roaches when the lights come on. You were never too much. They were just too small, too hollow to handle a heart like yours. You were depth, and they were surface. And surface people, they can't breathe underwater. So instead of learning to swim in your world, they tried to pull you into theirs. Shallow, temporary, full of noise and masks. You don't belong there. You never did. That's why it hurt. That's why you felt so damn out of place. Because your soul wasn't built for half love and fake loyalty. You gave raw. You gave real. You gave with every damn beat of your chest. And they gave you silence, excuses, ghosting, inconsistency. You were building a bridge while they were burning the wood beneath you. And now, when they look back, all they see is ashes. That's on them. Let them sit in it. And you, don't let your heart become bitter. Don't let the pain make you cruel, but let it teach you. Let it harden your standards, not your soul. The next time someone tries to enter your life, let them prove they belong. Let them earn what the last ones treated like charity. No more open doors for people who don't even knock. No more access for those who only show up when they need something. You're not a fix. You're not a therapist. You're not a convenience store for broken people who refuse to heal themselves. You're a whole damn empire, and not everyone deserves a seat inside your gates, especially not the ones who once spat on your crown while it was still being built. They thought you'd be stuck on them forever, didn't they? thought you'd stay trapped in the same loop of waiting, hoping, breaking. But you broke the cycle. And now, they don't know how to process your growth. You're not chasing. You're not explaining. You're not pleading for attention anymore. You're quiet, focused, distant. And that's what scares them. Because people fear what they can't control. And your silence? It's the loudest "I don't need you" they've ever heard. That's why they keep lurking, watching, waiting, trying to provoke a reaction. But don't give them one. Your peace is your revenge. Your absence is your answer. Your glow up? That's the punishment. Not out of pettiness, but out of power. Real, earned, untouchable power. You know what most people never tell you? That it's not the betrayal that breaks you, it's the realization that you were never truly seen. That while you were out here loving with every inch of your being, they were only ever loving the idea of you. The version that served them. The version that bent without breaking. And once you stopped bending, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to love the you that finally had boundaries. They didn't know how to handle the silence after years of noise. Because people like that, they aren't looking for souls, they're looking for services. And when the service shuts down, when the energy dries up, when the loyalty isn't handed out like candy anymore, they panic. They don't miss you. They miss what you did for them. And that's the ugliest truth of all, that you weren't loved. You were used. And no one ever says it that plain. But I will, because I'm not here to sugarcoat. I'm here to remind you that you didn't lose love. You lost manipulation. You lost someone who mistook your kindness for weaknesses. And in that loss, you found yourself. Now look at you. You're not begging anymore. You're not over-explaining. You're not cracking jokes to fill awkward silences. You're not overcompensating to feel included. You're not lowering your worth so someone else can feel taller. You've learned to sit in silence, in solitude, and actually like it there. That's what they never expected. That you'd get comfortable in your own absence. That you'd stop needing their noise to validate your voice. That's the kind of growth that turns you into a threat. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're untouchable now. You know who you are. You know what you bring. And more importantly, you know what you'll never accept again. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes them uncomfortable. They'll try to spin it, call you arrogant, call you distant, say you changed, but you didn't change. You leveled up. You outgrew the version of you who tolerated disrespect disguised as jokes, love bombings, followed by cold shoulders, and I'm just busy excuses from people who were never too busy for what they actually cared about. You outgrew waiting for crumbs. You're not starving for attention anymore. You're full now. full of purpose, full of clarity, full of peace. And that kind of fullness scares the hell out of people who only knew how to love you when you were empty. Let them feel your absence. Let them try to recreate the comfort they destroyed. Let them scroll through your old messages and remember the warmth they'll never touch again. Because your silence, it's a memorial, a graveyard for every ignored call, every left-on read, every half-assed effort. It speaks louder than any revenge plot, any angry rant, any emotional breakdown ever could. It says, you had me, and you wasted it. And now, you don't. That's the final chapter. That's the closing scene. You don't need to scream it. Just walk away. Quiet. Calm. Done. That's what hits the hardest. That's what keeps them up at night. They'll sit in rooms filled with people and still feel alone. That's what your absence does. It haunts. Not because you left a message behind, not because you slammed a door, but because you just vanished. No drama, no warning, just gone. And the silence you left? It's a constant reminder that something real used to live there. They'll laugh louder to silence the voice in their head telling them they lost something irreplaceable. They'll keep moving, partying, posting, but none of it fills the hole your presence once occupied. Because that kind of presence, it's not about noise, it's about energy. You were the calm in their chaos, the listener when their own mind screamed, the anchor when everything around them drifted. And now that you're not there, they'll realize they were never really standing on their own feet. They were leaning on you every damn time. And now that the foundation's cracked, they don't know how to rebuild. That's why they don't move on. Not really. They replace, sure. They distract themselves with new faces, new bodies, new stories. But you weren't a phase. You were a mirror. You reflected everything they didn't want to face about themselves. And that's why losing you hurts more than they admit. It's not just about missing you. It's about what your absence forces them to confront. Their shallowness, their selfishness, their inability to appreciate something until it's gone. You were real in a world full of fake, consistent in a culture of temporary, solid in a sea of wishy-washy connections. And they threw that away, not because they didn't want it, but because they didn't know how to handle it. That's not your burden to carry anymore. Now it's their turn to sit with the silence. Let them try to scroll past the feeling. Let them drown in distractions. Because at 2 a.m., when the room is dark and the mask comes off, that's when it hits. That's when your absence wraps around their throat like regret. No playlist can mute it. No new partner can replace it. No phone screen can distract from it. Because your silence screams louder than any goodbye ever could. And the weight of it? It's permanent. You see, when people lose something they never thought they'd lose, it rewires them. It reshapes their worldview. And now, every person they meet will be compared to you. Every kind gesture, will remind them of what they once had for free, but couldn't keep. You've become a ghost, not the scary kind, but the kind that lives in the back of their mind, forever, quiet, present, unreachable. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove a point. The absence you left is doing all the talking. Every day they go without you, they learn something new about what they took for granted. And the best part? You're not even trying. You're not begging to be remembered. You're not sending hints or watching their stories or hoping they reach out. You're building, healing, moving in silence. And that's what kills them the most. That you're doing better, that you're rising, that you're becoming everything they said you couldn't be without them, that you're still breathing, still standing, still glowing, while they're stuck wondering what could have been. Let them wonder. You see, they thought you'd stay broken. They thought when they shattered you, that was it. That you'd spend your days crawling through the mess they left behind, trying to rebuild with pieces they never helped carry. But the mistake they made wasn't in hurting you. It was in assuming you'd never heal. They didn't realize pain sharpens some people. That the ones who bleed in silence are the same ones who rise in the dark. You didn't need closure, you didn't need an apology. All you needed was the distance, the space to finally see things for what they were, not through the filter of love, but through the lens of reality. They weren't your peace. They were your poison, dressed like comfort. And once you stopped sipping, your mind cleared. Your eyes opened. You saw it all. The manipulation, the breadcrumbs, the twisted games they played to keep you close enough to use, but far enough to never truly commit. And in that moment, when the fog lifted, you knew. You knew you could never go back. That's the thing with absence. It reveals more than presence ever could. When you're around, people get lazy. They assume you'll always be there. They stop showing up, stop putting in effort, stop appreciating. But when you leave, when you vanish without a trace, that's when the mirror shatters. That's when they realize you were the consistency in their chaos. The one who answered late night calls, the one who made time, the one who remembered the small things. And now they're left with empty echoes. They'll replay old conversations, revisit old pictures, but none of it hits the same. Because you're not just gone, you've evolved. You've become something they can't reach. A version of yourself they never deserved to meet. And here's the darkest part. They won't admit it. Not out loud. No. They'll lie to their friends. Smile in public. Post like nothing happened. But every time they close their eyes, you're there. Not because you want to be, but because they invited you in and then treated you like furniture. Something to be used, not cherished. And now, you've become a ghost with teeth. Your absence bites. It lingers. It reminds them every damn day of what they let rot. You could have built empires together. You could have healed each other. But they chose ego, pride, control. And now, they're alone with it. Meanwhile, you're not angry. You're not even hurt anymore. You're focused, hungry, sharp. You've turned the pain into fuel. Every scar is a reminder that you survived what they thought would end you. And that silence you carry, it's sacred now. It's not emptiness. It's power. It's the space where your boundaries live, where your healing grows, where your peace breathes without the chaos of people who never appreciated it. You're no longer the version of yourself who begged for crumbs. You sit at your own table now. You serve yourself. And if someone wants to eat with you, they better come correct. They better come full, because you're done feeding people who only showed up with appetite and no gratitude. They'll say they didn't know what they were doing, that they didn't mean to hurt you, that it was just how things played out. But deep down, they knew. They always knew. Because people know when they're taking advantage of someone who loves them. They just count on your silence. They count on your heart being bigger than your pride. They expect you to stay soft, even after being burned. That's why they never apologize until you leave. That's why they never realize the damage until the door's locked and your footsteps are nothing but echoes in a hallway. They let go cold. They knew you were good, knew you were loyal, knew you'd always be there. And still they choke up. They tested you, pushed you, ignored you, replaced presence with empty excuses. And now that you're gone, they're not mourning the relationship. They're mourning the safety, the comfort, the guaranteed support. Because without you, they've got no shield, no fallback. Just the raw reality that the one person they thought would never leave did. And not because you stopped caring, but because you finally cared about yourself. That's what burns them the most. That your leaving wasn't some loud, dramatic exit. You didn't yell. You didn't curse. You didn't beg them to change. You just disappeared. Quiet. Final. And they were too arrogant to believe you ever would. That's what always gets them. The silence. The absence. Because it forces them to ask the one question they avoided the whole time. Was I really worth losing someone like that? And the answer? It always stings. Because it wasn't you who lacked value. It was them who lacked the vision to see it. You were gold in the hands of someone who didn't know the weight of what they were holding. And now, they're left with dust, scattered memories, fake smiles that don't reach their eyes. They'll try to heal in all the wrong places now. Dive into distractions, seek comfort in strangers, maybe even try to find you in someone new. But they won't, because you weren't just a person. You were a presence, a light, a rhythm, a frequency they'll never tune into again. They'll realize too late that you were rare. And what's rare isn't just hard to find. It's impossible to forget. You taught them what love looks like, what effort feels like, what it means to be supported without conditions. And now, that silence, that's the lesson. That's the punishment. Not to break them, but to wake them. Because nothing screams louder than the absence of something real. And you were real. Every word, every gesture, every sacrifice. But now it's your time to rebuild without them, to rise without looking back, to breathe without apologizing for taking up space. You don't need their approval. You don't need their validation. You've already proven everything by walking away with your soul intact. That's strength. That's power. That's the kind of revenge that doesn't need an audience. You became untouchable, not by fighting back, but by going ghost, by letting your silence do what your words never could, expose the truth that they never deserved you. And now they live with it. They'll tell others a different story, twist the truth just enough to make themselves feel better. They'll say, you gave up too easily, that you changed, that you became cold, but they won't say why. They won't mention the nights you stayed up, replaying conversations in your head, trying to figure out where you went wrong. They won't say how many times you bit your tongue just to keep the peace. How often you sacrificed your own needs to make space for theirs. They'll leave out the part where you begged for effort in silence, where you begged for connection through patience, through understanding, through love. They won't tell the world that you gave them everything, and they didn't even look up from their damn phone. No, they'll play the victim. They'll perform heartbreak like it's theater. And the worst part? People might believe them, but you will know. You'll carry the truth like armor. You won't have to scream it from rooftops. You'll just walk with it, quiet, unbothered, strong. Because silence doesn't mean weakness. It means evolution. You see, the old you, the one who used to chase, to explain, to prove, that version is dead, gone. You buried them the moment you realized your worth doesn't live in someone else's perception. It lives in your choices, your distance, your peace. You stopped needing people who only loved you when it was easy. You stopped entertaining connections that felt like auditions. You outgrew situations that made you question your own damn value. And now you're untouchable. Not because you became heartless, but because you finally found your heart. You reclaimed it from the hands that fumbled it, from the lips that spoke lies over it, from the ones who treated it like an option. And the people who hurt you, they'll notice, slowly, painfully. They'll scroll through your posts, lurk in the shadows, try to feel close to you through pixels because your presence is no longer theirs to touch. And it'll kill them. That they can't access you anymore. That the bridge they thought would always be there has been burned not out of anger, but out of necessity. You didn't burn it to hurt them. You burned it to protect yourself from walking back across it ever again. Because some places, some people, they don't deserve second visits. They're lessons, graves, proof of who you'll never be again. And while they spiral in their thoughts, trying to make sense of how they lost you, you'll be rebuilding in silence. Not bitter, not revengeful, just better. Surrounded by peace, driven by purpose, focused on becoming the version of yourself that never tolerates half-love again, that never compromises self-respect for temporary comfort, that doesn't chase, but attracts, that doesn't settle, but chooses. And when they hear your name in rooms they enter, it'll sting. Not because you're trying to hurt them, but because they had you. And now you're just a memory they can't hold, a lesson they didn't study, a presence that's vanished, but never forgotten.